One financial analyst who spent 2 decades studying the markets agreed to a rare on-camera appearance to issue his biggest warning ever. He says the biggest market bubble in history is popping. So you can do nothing or take this one simple step to prepare now. This past winter, he began issuing a big warning about inflation and a looming market disaster. His timing was nearly perfect, but he promises you there's still time to act, to protect yourself, and potentially see some of the biggest gains of your life in the coming years in the right time-tested assets, ones that tend to skyrocket in times of inflation, like hard assets, energy, and gold. He's put together a 5-stock model portfolio, a way to not just beat inflation, but benefit from it. This dead simple one-step investment approach could show you a series of triple-digit gains or higher starting right now. You could set yourself up in minutes and likely forget about inflation, rising prices, or the worst effects of a market crash for years to come. The critical thing is that you act now. Do your future self a huge favor and get the facts free of charge. To watch our full interview for free, simply go to inflationprotection2022.com. Again, that's inflationprotection2022.com to watch our full interview. Hi, this is Daniela Cambone, and welcome back to the Daniela Cambone Show here on Stansberry Research. Well, the creature from Jekyll Island is considered by many to be the financial Bible. It has influenced the likes of experts including Dr. Ron Paul, Robert Kiyosaki, William Middlecope. Well, today we are with the founding father of the movement that was looking and is still looking to basically get rid of the Federal Reserve. With us today is the author of The Creature from Jekyll Island. Please welcome back G. Edward Griffin. So good to be back with you, Mr. Griffin.
Well, thank you for inviting me. It has been a long time.
It has been a long time, and I've been trying for over a year to bring you back. I know how busy you are, but our last talk just went viral, amassing over 1 million views. Your words really resonating with a lot of folks. And we spoke before the war, before the superinflation we find ourselves in, before this hawkish environment we are now living in with the Federal Reserve. So I want to first get your thoughts on the interest rates that the Fed is looking to push out to help quell the inflation. What are your general thoughts on the economic conditions we find ourselves in?
I find it kind of ludicrous that the Federal Reserve is telling us that they're trying to do something or going to do something to stop or reduce inflation. When the fact of the matter is, if you understand how this works, the Federal Reserve is the cause of inflation. In a really honest and secure monetary system, the money supply and the goods and services that the money is supposed to bid for remain in constant relationship to each other, because the money supply is based on something that has tangible value and something that takes human effort to produce. And not only gold and silver, but that's throughout history, those have been the backing elements of any really good money supply. And the reason I say good, because if you have nothing to back the money system, then you can create as much of it as you wish. But if you say you have silver or gold to back the money supply, it takes human effort to produce the silver and the gold, just like it takes human effort to produce all those goods and services. So you've got human effort on both sides, and they pace each other in a free society, in a free market. But when you have a central bank that comes in and says, well, we don't care about backing the money with anything anymore. We'll just create as much of it as we want to, or think we say we need to, and everything will be fine. Well, everything is not fine that way, because whenever people in high positions are able to create money out of nothing, that's exactly what they're going to do. They'll create more and more and more and more of it, because it's kind of like a high. All this money we can buy our way into or out of anything we want to. So anyway, when the Federal Reserve talks about, well, we're very concerned about inflation, we might have to increase interest rates or so forth, it just makes me sad, because most people who hear this believe it, and they think those are the good guys, when in fact it's a scam. Now that's my point of view after having spent quite a bit of research on it, but so it's my point of view, and I think it's an accurate one. I remember when I first produced the book, Creature from Jekyll Island, and I was on a lecture tour to promote the book. Well, I was scared to death, because I'm a guy that has no background in money and banking. I spent 7 years writing the book and learning about it as best I could. But still, I think one of these days, some college professor is going to nail me, and I'm just going to be nailed to the wall, find out something really stupid that I said in the book. So one day I was traveling down the East Coast, and I got the invitation to speak on a radio station, come to the studio and be interviewed about this book. So I said, oh yeah, I'll be glad to be there. And when I got there, there was another person sitting at the microphone, and I found out it was going to be a debate between a college professor from some local university who's an expert in money and banking and teaches the course. I thought, oh, here's my day of execution. So I tell you that little story because we got into it. The host asked me, okay, Mr. Griffin, you present your case in a concise form, if you will. So I said, okay. So I went through my little litany of all the things that are wrong with the Federal Reserve. And when I was all done, he turned to the professor and said, Professor, what's your response to that? And I kind of hunkered down thinking, here it comes, here it comes. And the guy sat there for, I don't know, maybe 5 or 7 seconds. He was, what am I going to say? And finally he says, well, what he says is true.
Wow.
But we're living well, aren't we? I thought, hooray, I made it through the final exam. Yes, what I said was true. And the fact that he said we're living well, aren't we, that was false too. Now, he was living well, and all the people whose well-being is derived from income that flows from this cash creation from the Federal Reserve, creating all this free money. Yeah, they're living very well. But if you look at the overall economic status of the society at whole, the middle class is being squeezed out of existence. The rich, the very rich, are getting very richer, and the middle class is getting smaller and smaller, and the poor and the very poor are getting poorer. So we're going back to kind of a medieval stage where we had the masters living in the big house, and all the rest were just peons and so forth. So that's my first response to that question. It's ludicrous to think that these are the people that are saying we're going to fix inflation. Reminds me of a beer ad or a whiskey ad on television that says drink responsibly.
No, I love those anecdotes and those stories. So basically, they just let the good times roll for too long. The surplus of money printing ushered in with Ben Bernanke till today. And here we are. Now they're saying, we don't think we can have that soft landing. Should we be bracing for a recession? So when you hear recession now, what does Mr. Griffin think?
Well, I think it's a continuation of what I was just talking about. These binges, monetary binges that we go through from time to time, just wreak havoc on the economy. And what goes up must come down. There's always a natural level that must be met, just like water. You can dam up the water only so long. Eventually something happens, the dam breaks, or the water flows over the top, and the water will seek its natural level. And the economy is a lot like that, I think, that you can't fool Mother Nature with water, and you can't fool Mother Monetary with phony money. I mean, there's a natural balance that takes place. And so we have these ups and these downs, which are a result of political manipulation of the money supply. If the money supply were determined by free market forces, there would be very little up and down, very little up and down. The gradual increase of economic prosperity might be slower in that process, but it would be more even and predictable. It would be still, in the long run, I think it would be even greater than what you have with these jagged sawtooth type charts. And people get a high when everything is going up so quickly, and then bingo, down comes the sawtooth on the other side, and everything collapses. And then you get, oh, this is terrible. And then they forget all that for the next sawtooth as it comes up. And they apparently never learned the lesson that it would be better to have this nice even slope, and maybe not so exciting as the roller coaster ride, but it would be more reliable, and people wouldn't lose their savings and their retirement income and things like that.
If you don't mind enlightening us for a second, if we could just play imagination, how would things be different had we not gone off the gold standard? What would it look like today?
Well, that's a good question. The obvious answer is I don't know. I mean, what would happen if something else didn't happen? But my view is that we'd be in a much, much better position today, especially than we are now, because of the very phenomenon I was just describing. It would be that steady expansion of goods and services, along with the steady advancement of the money supply. Because don't forget, under the conditions that you just described, and on the gold standard, somebody has to make that gold. They have to dig it out of the ground, and they have to smelt it, refine it, stamp it into coins, and put it in a vault, and maybe swap it out for some gold reserve banknotes. It says, take this piece of paper to the bank, and we'll give you the gold. That means that the bank can't issue any more paper currency than the bank has in its vault. Now, the banks hate this. They love to have gold and silver in their vaults, but they can never have enough of it to base a monetary system on that's profitable to them. By that, I mean this. If you think of how does a bank make its money? Well, some people would say, well, they swindle and they cheat. And I suppose there's a lot of that too, but probably no more of that in the banking fraternity as there is in other business fraternities. But nevertheless, how do banks make their money, at least on the surface? Well, they make it by charging interest on loans. So banks love to loan money. They have to loan money. That's their business. Otherwise, they don't make money themselves. They don't make that interest charge and service charges. So in order to increase their profitability, they have to have a greater inventory. Now, if the inventory is limited because not enough people, in their view at least, are digging the gold out of the ground and making new backing for currency, that means that the total currency, their inventory to loan out, is limited. And there's only so much of it they can loan out to collect interest on until finally they say, oh, we're out of inventory. How do we get more inventory? And you, under an honest monetary system, you get more inventory through waiting until somebody decides that mining gold or silver is just as profitable, or maybe more so, as making shoes or building houses. And then the labor market moves back and forth to wherever they think the advantage is. And all of this is done without any committee trying to figure out how to make it work. It's human nature, everybody acting in their own self-interest and counterbalancing as the process goes. So if you can imagine such a system existing, and it has existed in history for brief points of time, but I'm talking about if it existed for a long period of time, we would have a slower expansion of prosperity and standard of living than the sawtooth thing. And it would be less exciting, but it would be reliable. So my answer to your question is today, it would be much better than it is today had we done that. And nobody would have been destroyed economically unless they did something foolish or there was some accident of nature in their business cycle. But it wouldn't be a programmed kind of destruction that happens when you destroy the whole monetary system by inflating the number of dollars or yens or other monetary units, and then to the point where it overpowers the capacity for the system, everything collapses, and then you build and collapse again. So it's something that's very clear. I think the average grade school child could understand how this works. And certainly by the time you get to high school and to the university level, it would be certainly most people would understand it. But the fact of the matter is they don't teach this stuff in the school. And some of us who are more suspicious than others say, I wonder, how come they don't teach this stuff in school? I wonder if they don't want people to know this.
All right. Well, thank you again. And thank you all for watching this very special edition of the Daniela Camboni Show here on Stansberry Research. Be sure to sign up at danielacamboni.com so you can get alerted right away for all these incredible interviews coming your way. That's it for me. Thanks for watching.
Opinions expressed on this program are solely those of the contributor and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of Stansberry Research, its parent company, or affiliates.